Good evening, everybody, and welcome, welcome, welcome. It is a wonderful Monday night. We are so thankful that you're joining us. So thankful that Cubbie's not here. I mean, sorry. I did not mean to say that
No,
out
he's
loud.
he's here in
We
spirit.
yes,
Yes.
yes, that's what I meant.
Actually, he's in
That
Las
that's
Vegas, so
it.
he's probably having so much fun, letting it all ride on, on 00 that, he doesn't even know, probably doesn't even remember who we are.
He doesn't.
No, he's winning big, I'm sure. I'm sure he's winning
But
big.
speaking of Vegas, those of you that happen to be out there or catch this in the replay because you're too busy doing your things in Vegas, hopefully you're enjoying Wedding MBA.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was seeing some of the posts from some people today of just kind of their arrivals and
Mm-hmm.
different things that they're looking forward to, and looks like it's going to be a good show.
It typically is. It's probably of all of the shows out there, DJ shows and wedding industry shows, it's one of my favorite from the standpoint that there are some DJs out there, if you follow, as Dan was mentioning, that there's quite a few of our friends out there, but there's not as many as there are as a DJ convention. And yet there's hundreds, if not thousands of people there because you've got all sorts of people from the wedding industry out there. You can go and sit in on different classes for different groups, so you don't have to follow the DJ track. You can bounce over to different ones. So it really gives you a different taste, feel, what have you, from a DJ event. And again, because there aren't as many DJs out there, it's much easier to make plans to go and hit, dinner or lunch or whatever with half a dozen DJs because that's pretty much how many of your friends might be there over the course of the event. So definitely one great education and great networking. I would highly recommend it if you're looking to go to a show. It's just that it hits me at the wrong time of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. All the Vegas shows for me is kind of just in that weird time period ballpark that makes it tough.
Yeah,
But Wedding MBA is on my list of ones to hit at some point.
for sure, for sure. So, Dan, tonight I want to talk about a couple of Billboard music charts, specifically a couple of years that we have chosen. And you were looking at a few different years, but the idea basically is that I wanted to pick a favorite kind of year where there's there's some songs that had meaning. It may not be songs that had usability for us as mobile DJs. Maybe it did that part, but it's basically songs where that year had some significance, and I wanted to kind of dig into that a little bit and kind of share that. So I've got my notes and I've got everything put together, but I was thinking we should probably just go through like one year and then we'll go on to the other year. So
Okay.
that way we're not bouncing back and forth between because I went through I pulled out 1983 for those of you who are wondering because I'm old, and Dan went with something way newer. So what year did you end up settling on there, Dan?
2008.
2008. So,
Yeah.
if you do you want to start, then we'll go through that, and then we can because there probably is going to be more usable songs because 1983, while it has a great year, and I'll explain kind of why later. Yeah, for us as mobile DJs, there's probably not a ton.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, I mean, do you want to start with the songs, or did you want to start with like some of the headline hits that we were?
Yeah, let's start. Just let's kind of set the pace a little bit. If there's
Okay.
a couple of things like newsy things or entertainment things that popped out in 2008, so people kind of put themselves into get themselves thinking 2008. What do you got?
Yeah.
Give us a couple of them.
So I'll be honest, I had to do some digging, right? Like you don't look up the Billboard chart and go, "Oh, that was everything that happened this year." No, like there was other things that were going on, and that was some of the big key points. I mean, obviously we have, Barack Obama, like him or hate him, I don't care if that's the case, but we had the first black president, elected that year. So that
Mm-hmm.
was, obviously some big pieces that played into it. But I didn't realize it was the launch of the iPhone 3G.
Hmm.
And so
That's
that kind of changed a lot if you think about where we're at right now, where we're tied to our devices and and everything else, where this really kind of opened up the door. It's that was the year their app store like came to be. Like there was a lot of things that were happening all tied to this new launch of this phone. And so just kind of like, okay, we've got another thing to kind of deal with here.
mm-hmm.
Um, I think personally, I think one of the things that um, propelled one of the reasons why I think 2008 ends up being such a great year for music is because it became an outlet, if you will, a creative outlet for a lot of people. Because that was also, if you think about it, it was one of the years that we had one of the strikes, like I don't know if it was a writer's strike or if it was an actor strike or something like that, but there was something in that year that caused a lot of the shows and everything to just kind of go, I guess we're going to show reruns. And so people were, as a result, kind of looking for another way to for that creative piece, right?
Mm.
I'm not gonna watch the show that I've watched 20 times now already because that's all they're showing me. And so I think more people turn to music, and it just opened the door for that. So those were some of the there were some other ones. There was, like, I was looking through it, talked about Hulu, it talked about Britney Spears. Like that was like the big year, I think, that Britney
Mm-hmm.
Spears just went back crazy. So there was that kind of piece that was coming into play. So that was 2008, right? That was what was happening among like a bunch of other things that were happening in 2008. But
Okay.
when I started looking at it, I really picked out this year because when I pull up some of my music or I'm listening to Sirius and I'm looking back in like the 10 spot or whatever, I'm seeing dates, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like every time I start jamming out to a song, I look down, it says 2008. Like I don't know
Mm.
why that's the case. It's just, the kind of weird in that aspect. And I will say when I started looking at some other charts, 2009 was a close second for kind of that same feel. But when you think about when I hit some of these top songs, you're going to be like, oh, that was 2008. Okay, now
Mm-hmm.
I see, right? So, for example, number one, Flow Rida Low, right? Like here we are 16 years later, we're still playing the song. It's still getting huge response, even from grandma. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the top song that year. So, to me, that kind of stood out. We have Alicia Keys with No One. There's a great slow track, that we're using. Where were some other ones here that jumped out? Chris Brown Forever, right? For the how long did we have to use that as an intro song for introduction? Like as the background track for introductions.
And that
Thank
one
you,
for me,
Office.
yeah, that started, and then it went away for a bit when he got a little, and it seemed like this past year and a half, it's really come back again for me as an introductory
Really?
song. So far, yeah, Low and Forever are the two that have been played. Obviously, Low's played pretty much at every event because somebody will request it if you don't play it, and then I bet even if we haven't used it for an introduction, I bet it's been played at 3/4 of our events this year because it will be requested. So two big songs that are still in that rotation.
As I go a little bit deeper in the list, right? So I this song necessarily isn't there's two songs in here that I'm gonna pull out that I don't feel are songs we necessarily utilize. However, they're the first song for an artist that I'm pretty sure you utilize,
Mm.
right? So this was the year that Katy Perry came out with "I Kissed a Girl,"
Oh
right?
yeah.
Probably not using that at a wedding. Maybe you are. All the more power to you, especially if it's requested. But that was her first song, launched her onto the scene, and then we have everything that kind of follows from there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I see that. It's just all Eric's comment in the chat. Love it.
Yeah, Apple Bottoms in the
Yes,
chat.
Eric. I don't know why I misquoted the name of the
Yeah,
song. I'm sorry.
you'll get it right next time. Yes, it's Apple Bottoms.
But another artist that got started this year that burst onto the scene this that in 2008, Taylor Swift. That was the year we got
Oh,
our song.
okay, that was her first when she started charting.
Yeah. So again, not a song. I mean, you occasionally might be able to use our song, or will use our song. But again, this is another one of those. This is the year that brings that artist to the forefront for us. So, um, those were some of the first. I mean, do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we're just gonna we're
Okay,
kind of work
so
through and talk about it.
right, so we coming in number 17, we got Rihanna, "Don't Stop the Music." That one went away for the longest time for me, and just recently I've started sprinkling it a little bit, not using it a lot. I'm gonna blame a little bit on the Super Bowl for this, why it suddenly came back to the forefront a little bit,
Yeah, that's right.
but getting it's still getting some decent response for me.
Mm-hmm.
So again, not something I'm throwing in all the time, but definitely something that does get that kind of piece to it. Um, there's two songs on this list that when I think of a nice acoustic um cocktail track, Jason Mraz, "I'm Yours."
And you're jumping down to 27.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to
I'm not going through all of
Yep,
them. I
yep.
mean,
No,
we hit.
I want to talk about. There's one at number 20, which is kind of a There's always some songs that are kind of a guilty pleasure type of a thing where it's a song that you really can't use anywhere, but you just enjoyed the jam type of a thing. And Neo's "Closer" at number 20 for the year is one of those songs, and it would be one of the back when we were still doing quite a few bars and such at the time, and I would try to find a spot to play that song. You just it's like could I put it? No, can I put it here? No. I mean, I would put it those places and try it, and it would never do it. No one got into it or was happy to hear it as much as I was. It's one of those songs, but yeah, that was one of them. So yeah, I'm sorry. So
Really?
jump down to the
No,
Jason.
no, no, you're fine. That kind of surprises me.
Yeah, I don't know
I don't know
why.
why.
It's just there's some songs that just they feel like they're scratching an itch or they're filling a hunger or a craving, and that's one of them. I don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just yeah. Everyone's going to judge me now. That's okay. I'm a big boy.
By the way, I would encourage anybody to check out this to check out this list from the standpoint of like there's a few in here that reminded me of some of the club days. Like you started
Mm-hmm.
mentioning that, like, and I'm not wasn't necessarily thinking that when I was talking about these, but Little Wayne Lollipop. Oh my gosh, like how many times did I have to play that
Oh yeah,
in
yeah.
bars and clubs when that thing came out?
Mm-hmm.
And that that Kiss Kiss is another one that's on here that I was like, oh, yep, there's another, piece. Of course, Chris Brown. So I think we kind of like distanced ourselves when we had
Yep.
to suddenly. But yeah. Oh, but back to the cocktail hour tracks. Um, Colby Calais,
Yes.
Bubbly is the one that's on the list here. That comes in at 21. But that reminds me, that's one of those tracks that I will use in that kind of feel. It's
Mm-hmm.
upbeat, it's kind of fun, and it gives that kind of good type of feel to it. Um,
And I think that there's many a songs on any of year's charts, and I would highly recommend that a person goes through and makes playlists on your virtual DJ, make a folder of these types of the Jason Moran's, Colby Calais there, make playlists of those songs that you could use for that cocktail hour because you get into the right age group and you're like looking in the room and you're like, okay, let's see, 2008. If we go to when the people would be, that's what would you say, 16 years ago. So they would have been in their teens. So you're looking at people in their early 30s, early to mid 30s, when they would have been experiencing this stuff and paying attention to the music. If you've got that right group in front of you and you're playing these kind of things that they kind of dance, maybe not dance to, but they sang along to when they were at that teen years, yeah, that's gold for you. So take these types of lists and just spend the time to make a playlist. And that's a great tips video for you to do for Wednesday, Dan.
I mean, all mine are used up. All right, so we're gonna have to hang on.
Yeah,
I got to make a note for myself.
write that down. Make the video.
New video year. Okay. I got enough note that I can make my video. I thought I still had some. Okay. Anyway. Um where was I at?
We were in the
Oh,
20s. Yeah,
this what was that?
we were somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah, well, I'm scrolling down a
Oh,
little
you're
bit
at
further.
99. Okay,
Um
great. We're almost.
yeah, the show you said we were only doing 20 minutes tonight, right?
Well, we'll go a little bit longer than that because
Okay.
we're gonna go to we're talking about one of the most important years in music in 1983. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
throw that out there.
I will tell you there's another reason why I picked this list, and I'll get to it
Okay,
when I get
that's good. I'm glad there's
there's a
multifaceted.
secondary reason. But
Mm-hmm.
um a song that's coming back in, and again, I kind of, John, you exactly hit on this, right? This is 16 years ago. This is probably a sweet spot for a lot of our couples. Those are there that late 20s, early 30s. You know, if that's your typical, if that's your ideal client, this list is probably like one you should digest wholeheartedly and then again some. Miley Cyrus, "See You Again." Miley Cyrus, like anything, like in that like mid 2000s, Miley, like you have a lot of great tracks that you can suddenly like grab and kind of pull back and just kind of experiment with, throw in different parts of the night. And don't resort yourself to only the party in the USA, right? Like there's
Mm-hmm.
some other songs that she had those years that are gonna catch on and do really well for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Sliding down just below that, Sean Kingston is actually one artist this year, this summer. I've had Sean Kingston stuff requested, not a specific song, but by hey, can you play something from Sean Kingston? It's like, cool. What do you? Again, the right age group. They remember that there is something. They like, maybe they like everything from Sean Kingston, but when it just happened like 4 or 5 times during the course of a calendar a wedding season. You're like, okay, there's something to this, and it's not like the same person at one wedding. This is at different weddings. That maybe there's some Sean Kingston need or should be worked into the rotation here for the next year or two.
what I find very interesting when it comes to Sean Kingston, so "Take You There," I would think would be, in my viewpoint, is one of his bigger tracks,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the one that did maybe the best commercially, we'll say. Yet "Fire Burnin'" is the one that gets the most requests,
Hmm.
and I will even have that requested at like school events.
Hmm.
Like that's the one that kind of surprised me, and to the point that I was almost like, did this come back around? Did somebody do a TikTok
Yeah.
with this? Like, what is causing this to suddenly come back around? But yeah, it was showing up on some request lists for these schools for the probably the past 2-3 years. Now this year not as much, but the past 2 or 3 years before it, it was like, oh, okay, sure. And it gives you a nice good track. It's like 123 BPM or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. So it
Mm-hmm.
gives you kind of a nice upbeat piece to throw in there with that one too.
So right after the Miley Cyrus, here's a song that this one's not that guilty pleasure type of a song, but it's one of the songs that it's like, oh my gosh, I love this song, and there's got to be a way to put this in and make it work with Metro Station "Shake It." It's
Mhm.
this upbeat driving, gets this got this kind of a fun song, and it's like, and again, I play it, and it's like I'm having more fun than everyone else. I don't know why. It fits them, and it's upbeat. It's moves, and it's just this. I don't know if it's too fast. If it, I don't know.
I think you kind of hit on it. It fits into that rock feel, but but it's yeah, it's a little too fast. I think for some people to get the feel, the energy level is a little too fast with it. And I also feel it's one of those, like that's the only song I think, and I probably could be wrong, and somebody in the chat will call me out on this, I'm sure. It's the only song I can recall from this group.
I
And
would
it
say
was
so.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't a one-hit wonder like, oh my gosh, it was top of the charts one-hit wonder. I mean, we're looking at this chart for the year and it 32,
So yeah, I probably
right?
might have gotten up into the top 20, most likely.
Right.
But yeah, it wasn't number one.
Yeah. Yeah. So from that standpoint, I think that's another thing that kind of works against some of these. Like it was good, but it wasn't like great.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't really get the top piece. Oh, Eric, yeah. Okay, so Eric called me out on Beautiful Girls for Sean Kingston. You're right. That I was forgetting.
Yeah,
That would be a close one.
that would be, yep, that would be. I couldn't remember what the song was that I did end up playing. "Beautiful Girls" was it? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then as I get down on the list, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Like I felt like the top of the list, the top 40 on that year is really what I was like, okay, I'm focusing on it. Although I have a feeling this must have spanned over 2 years or something. Soldier Boy Crank That is coming down at 54.
Mm-hmm.
And that one was a great one. You got another Flow Rider track in here. Yeah, these had a span over two
Oh yeah,
years
yeah,
easily.
exactly. It just depends on how they charted. So if it was something that hit, they dropped in the middle of the year and charted high in the fall, and then charted high in the winter, across winter.
Yeah,
Kevin,
so that oh,
yeah,
there's Love Story.
yeah.
There's
I was
I
gonna say
mean
there's
again,
some
this was
you're getting into Taylor Swift here towards the latter half. Um, Let It Rock from Kevin Rudolph was a track that, oh my gosh, that when this was released and such, the kids just request that because that of Lil Wayne's rap sequence, most likely. But good
yeah.
tune.
Yeah, because this is at the time that he was still,
Mm-hmm.
popular, with the tracks. I mean, Amelia's on here. Um, there was another one that I saw when I was scrolling down through. I forget. Mrs. Officer.
I didn't realize
So
Jonas Brothers were releasing, or they were back in then, 2008, with Burning Up there. Huh.
mhm.
I just had in my head that they were a little bit later than that.
No,
Yeah,
no, but that wasn't their first single. I don't think.
yeah. I guess they weren't on my radar too terribly much back then. You know, because all the young ladies were probably more paying attention to them. And
2006 was their first album.
okay, huh?
Although I don't know if there was anything we knew on that album.
Yeah, very. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it says like maybe that was the first one, and then the real one came out 2007. But
Mm-hmm.
um there was another one on here that just jumped out at me. Oh, Kid Rock All Summer Long. That was
Yeah,
2008.
yeah, yeah. That was he. The charts is there.
So yeah, so that to me when I think about when I think and again, maybe that's also like we hit on it, right? Like this is a sweet spot for a lot of our couples right now. That's why when I'm thinking about like, a great year in music, I'm kind of here because this is what I've been playing. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I've been having a lot of success with. This year is a lot of either these tracks or kind of as I mentioned, right, these artists,
Mm-hmm.
because we've got some of these artists that started or were really popular around this time, and so we're using them now with pretty decent success.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, especially if you go a year or two earlier, and then a year later in that 3 to 4 year span. Oh my gosh, that's just huge, huge for our weddings right now. Yeah. No, good year.
So the other reason why 2000 was really great year, there was no mention of any band from San Francisco on that list at all.
I'm gonna double check that. There's got to be somewhere. No, yeah, no, maybe. Did they spell it wrong? No. Yep. Check this link. No.
None.
None. I'll be darned. Yep. This year stinks. Okay. Ah. No, good stuff. And again, that when you start off a list with one of the biggest songs that we've used in the last 15 years, pretty much since it came out, um, you're definitely going to be going places with that. So okay,
Okay, I'm curious though. Going back to that song for a brief moment before you go to your
yeah, yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah.
Do you recall when it first coming out, when it was
Mm-hmm.
first coming out, for lack of better terms, being cautious with it in some of your
Oh
events?
yes, very much so because we weren't sure exactly what kind of dancing was. Because during this particular period of time, we were having a lot of problems with some schools where they were grinding and doing some different dances and such, and they were very very oh, you got to be careful what you play. And we literally had some schools where the principal would come up, and if the kids were dancing too close, or they were, the girl turned around and she was, grinding, and they would be like, "Play a polka now." It's like, seriously? Yeah, play a polka right now. Cut this song and put a polka in. Yeah, there was that kind of action was going on at this particular time, and I think part of that would have come because we just were, coming from, a different time, and we were getting into, as the political seasons roll, there's we ebbs and flows when it comes to what's allowed in or what's more acceptable here and there. And I think that we were coming from one world where we were being a little more cautious or a little more careful, and maybe moving into maybe lesser, that would have been a few years later. At least in central Minnesota, it felt like that. But yeah, we were definitely. Well, it didn't really wasn't a big song on my playlist. In the bar, it was, but not at
Yeah.
schools. It was probably a number of years, a couple of years before we were actually playing it at schools.
Yeah, I
Crazy.
can't even remember if I was playing it at weddings at that point.
No, I
Um,
very possibly not.
yeah. Bars definitely, right? Like that was the go-to for a lot of them in that aspect. And it was a great one, right? Because it was up at, it's a high 120s, 128, BPM. So you have a nice place for it. And you could utilize it and really kind of go a lot of places in and out, right? In and out of styles too.
I'd say the Let It Rock from Kevin Rodolph there was played way more at that particular time for us
Yeah.
than Low. And now today, I can play that if I've got the right crowd and they were from babies from that area that they know that's that type of stuff. But if I'm playing it for a more mixed crowd, the 30 somethings, some of the upper 20s, low 30s, they'll remember that song. But you get outside of that range, they don't know that. But grandma to the little kids all know Flo Rida. And keep in mind at that time, grandma who's now, let's say grandma's 70, that would have put her in her mid 50s when that came out. So she wouldn't have been quite to the point of being offended by anything that would have had that kind of a beat to it. But she had right in the border of that. And yet, 70-year-old grandma, and I've had 80 and 90-year-old grandmas that are out to jamming away to it, and just because it's become that acceptable across the board. So who would have known when it came out? At least in central Minnesota, we had no idea that where that what that would become. So
I think anybody did. But there's a lot of, there's a lot of tracks like that. Um, that you're just like kind of surprised that they would come on to that extent.
yeah, for sure. All right, Dan, let's segue to 1983. Now, 1983, for those of you who are wondering, let's see, that would have put me at approximately 13, 14 years old, somewhere in that ballpark. Um, Lots of big things were happening in the world. That was the Return of the Jedi was released that year, which in itself was, just a world changing thing. Because at that time, we would have to go to these movie theaters that didn't have the greatest sound system. I mean, they had better the best that you could get then, but we'd be in there and you were people all over you and you were in your little seat there and watching a movie in a tiny little seat. And I remember that it was so awesome. It was just incredible. And then when
They didn't have any recliners
no
with the
recliners and I think at the
bringing the
time
food to you.
I think at the time we probably couldn't even afford the popcorn, but we had to go to the movie. It was
Yeah.
that type of a time frame. For those of you wondering, in the 70s we were in a rural agricultural area, and the 70s was really tough on agriculture and farming. So some people did well, some people lost their shirts, and we were on the kind of lost our shirts side of it. So come in the early 80s, it was still um, very tough financial times in that. It was starting to come back by 1983 because 1980 Ronald Reagan was elected president, and the first couple of years were still, the confidence in the economy and things were building, and it was moving forward, but it wasn't felt in central Minnesota and the rural community as quickly as maybe other places. It did get here eventually, but this as a kid was still a tight time. I remember I went and bought my first pair of tennis shoes on my own about this time, and I went to this little five and dime store called Pomida. Did you guys ever have Pomida?
No.
Ben Franklin with their kind of
Yes.
okay.
Had
Yeah,
we had one of those
uh,
that recently actually just closed.
yeah. It probably was like a glorified like a dollar store or Dollar General type of thing, kind of combined with it. It's um, yeah, it was an early small version of like a Walmart, but they had no name stuff there, and I bought myself a pair of $12.99. Paid $12.99 for a pair of tennis shoes, and I thought I had the greatest shoes in the world because they were brand new. It was a big thing, a memory that sticks with
Yeah.
you. Yeah, crazy time. A couple of other things, and we'll talk more about this as we go into the music side of it. This is when Michael Jackson's Thriller was like the album. It was released in 1982, but this is the year that Thriller was huge. It's actually ironically, I now own 3 or 4 copies of Thriller. I actually own more copies of Thriller than I do sports. Yes. The reason for that is I have 2 collectors ones, and my boys opened one of my collectors one and they were playing it over there. So I have a two of the picture version, and then I had a standard Thriller that was still in plastic and still sealed. Well, they opened up one of my other ones and they were playing it, and it's like, whatever. Well, it's got a scratch on it. So I had to order another one. So the boys, I didn't get them the picture one, but it's like, here, guys, here's your own copy of Thriller. Because they come out here and they'll play pool and they were listening to Michael Jackson, and I can't say I'm too upset about that. They're listening to some of the history, musical history that we kind of experienced on ourselves. So. A couple of things. One of the most watched TV shows in 1983, MASH. The finale of MASH was in 1983. This is back now before you could record TV. So if you missed it the first time, a show, you may get lucky and see, you try to catch the rerun in the summer. If you missed it, you may never see it. Or at least, at that time we thought we'd never see it. It was like gone. So people would plan their schedule. I mean, if you're younger than 40, probably you guys, this is weird. We would literally plan our schedules so that come 7 o'clock, we would be in front of the TV with TV trays having supper, so you would not miss a thing. Because if you got up and left, there's no way to pause that TV, and if you missed it, it's gone. Never to happen again. So, granted, we didn't know about what was coming down the road. So. MASH, when it came out, that finale, everybody, and then the next day, everyone's talking about it. Did you? Oh my God, what did you think? It was just, that was so, I couldn't believe it. And even as little kids, again, 15, 13, 14, 15, yeah, we were talking about it, and it was something. It was something. Jumping back to Michael Jackson, this is when the Moonwalk debuted, and Dan, I want to, do you know what the moonwalk is, or what that was?
I do.
Nice.
I do. It's where you go on the moon and you walk around, right?
Exactly. And you get a little dust and it's all happy.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my gosh.
That's not it?
When we saw that happen, the very first time, it was like, oh my gosh. And then the next day, one of our buddies had figured out how to do it. It was like, what kind of voodoo magic do you have? Because he could do it. And he was pretty good at it. Well, then that became the thing. And when there's this smart kid who played basketball and decided that after he made a basket in one of the games, he was going to moonwalk, and ended up wiping out and falling on his butt. And wasn't me, I don't think much, but the moonwalk. Yeah. Let's see. There was another thing I wanted to talk about. This would have been the year that Madonna's her debut album dropped, which was obviously led to big things. Here it is. This is the one. 1983, Wheel of Fortune moved from daytime, where it had Chuck Woolery as the main host during daytime, and Pat Sajak was there a little bit also. It moved to evening in 1983, and it has been in the evening with Pat Sajak and Vanna White from 1983 up until this year. When think about that long, crazy, and it's still very popular. People still, it's one of the highest rated shows in there.
Don't worry, Ryan Seacrest will ruin it.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, he's been doing well. And let's face it, Vanna's the one who carries everybody there. Everyone else is just she's the one she does the hard stuff. And then finally, the last kind of little tidbit, the Smurfs. They had come out in 1981, but by 1983, you could get everything was Smurfy, and you could get Smurf this, Smurf that, and the blue was everywhere. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the McDonald's up in this neck of the woods had a Smurf shake for like a minute, and it was I don't know if it was a blueberry flavored or what it was, but I remember seeing this at McDonald's in our area up here, and it was a blue shake. I didn't get it because, well, then it might flash back to the tennis shoes. Couldn't afford it, but we remember seeing it and thinking, wow, rich people get Smurf shakes. Again, you get kind of put things in perspective for Okay, so let's jump and start talking songs because this 1983 was a huge year, and not so much for like in the case of Dan's list. It started off with a song that was like a banger. There's going to be a couple of songs as we go through that really were very used in what we do with Chris Brown and that. I don't know if we're going to find any bangers in this list. But I think there's a lot of music and specifically artists here that have use in what we do, maybe in different spots, or had an influence on today's music that really led us to where we are today and such. So this was a year that the Police came onto the scene, and they had the number one song with "Every Breath You Take." The Police, for those of you who are wondering why you've never heard of them too terribly much, it's because they were good and they had their time. They were very popular for people to listen to, and not so much a dance thing. This would maybe be a cocktail type of a thing you might use them for today, but their sound has influenced a lot of artists going forward. I would say that's probably their greatest value to where we're at today. Sting came out from the Police and did many solo things, and he's been involved with the music industry for a number of years after that. But yeah, for the number one song, yeah, it wouldn't be one you do. Probably number two at Michael Jackson with Billie Jean. That one still there's our first and maybe one of our only bangers or go-to songs from the Thriller album. Great track. It goes over well. The message of the song, of Billie Jean, may not be the most wedding appropriate, but I don't think anybody cares. I don't think they don't care that they're singing about, it's one of those songs. It could be a failed relationship. It could be, cheating on someone. They don't care. It's just a great tune, and it's got a great beat, and we can sing along, and everyone's happy. So,
I think it also like things like that. The farther removed we are from the debut of the song,
mm-hmm.
the more the more accepting it is, right? Even like Gloria Gaynor, "I Will Survive." I mean, like you're surviving after a breakup, like
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean? Like I think I know that's not for the same year, but it's just like okay, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at that time it was appropriate. Now it's like, yeah, it's a great song. Let's sing it. We're gonna do this. Wonderful. Um, many of the artists and such that or the groups that are here that they have songs that can be played for establishing a feel or a the the kind of the flow of the day. Men at Work is something they've got a lot of kind of great songs that would fit into that more of a kind of a cocktail, a toe tapping cocktail time. They had a few. They'll have a few on this list. You've got some one hit wonders that are in here. You've got Yacht Rock was many of the Michael Sembello in here, Hall and Oates, many of the things that fit into that Yacht Rock category. A lot of those types of songs that are going to be on this chart that we're gonna that you'll see as you look at it are songs that are the as I've had people this summer refer to it as like, wow, this is a great cocktail list. This is a great crowd pleasing list because it has those songs that are good songs, and it's kind of a bebop whatever along, or you sing along to it, but you're not going to dance to it. It's not that type of music. Culture Club. This is when they were coming onto the scene and really getting making a name for themselves, coming in with their first track at number 11. Um, great stuff there. Our one of a one hit wonder, Come On Eileen with Dexy Midnight Runner, came in during this. Again, these are probably not something that you would play as a dance type, but these are these little gems that you can drop in during that cocktail time.
See, "Come On Eileen," I think would be the exception to that
Mm.
piece. I've had success with that during a dance set when you've got a crowd that you're trying to like kind of change a little bit. It's got even the younger group, the ones that you wouldn't think would necessarily want this, turn around and will. Now I think if you play all 8,000 minutes of it, that's a different story. Um, I would look for a short edit that gets you that drop out that brings you back soon, so you're not having to play the whole thing to get the slow and the speed up. But yeah.
Uh, Kind of going down here. Toto. This is where Africa kind of peaked. Is in 1983 with Africa. Uh, Great tune. again, it fits into that category. But for a minute, it was also being requested at dances, and people wanted to have that. Or was it Weezer? Did Weezer
Yeah.
do? Yeah. So
Hmm.
it had it had a moment. Eileen, sing along song. Yeah, for the right, if the crowd knows it, yeah, it's a great sing along. And did Mike Walter do a prompt with that? Is that one of them he does a prompt with sing along? I don't remember.
Probably.
You could if he doesn't,
Yeah.
it definitely could. But yeah, just the diversity of, you've got Lionel Richie that comes in here, and again, the idea that a lot of this can be used for that cocktail time to set a tone for the night is why I think I really like this particular year, with a lot of the things that are there. Um, One of the songs that I'm going all the way down to 1999 from Prince. Um, when that came out, as at this time frame, that was kind of mind blowing to a point, because it was something, in many ways, it almost was so different than a lot of the music that we were consuming. We were consuming kind of pop, kind of a more mellow pop, which you get a feel for a lot of that here. And then all of a sudden there was this big loud 1999, with the drums and in the face and such, and it almost felt like it was a bigger song than many of Michael Jackson's songs at the time. And I remember that at that time, it's like had some friends who loved Prince, and I had many friends who hated it because they were Michael Jackson. It was like, you're your team Michael Jackson or your team Prince. And oh, and I skipped right over at 36 to Tony Basil with Mickey, which has been, probably would be the second most played song, um, for dances on this list for me so far.
It's interesting that you say this, like, because as I'm looking through this, there was some other ones on here. Um, of course, there was another Michael Jackson, right, with "Beat It," and I don't think you're gonna have a lot of play, especially recently with
Yeah,
that.
no.
But I can remember using some of those in there. David Bowie, "Let's Dance."
Oh, there's a lot of great classic tracks, and again, one hit wonders in here. You've got an Adamanti coming into a Kajagoogoo, which, if you were a Kajagoogoo fan, they were more than a one hit wonder, but pretty much that's the song that, if anybody would if you had their album, there was a lot of pretty good stuff on there. Don Henley, when his solo with Dirty Laundry. There's just a lot of great stuff in here. Stevie Nicks, when she came with Stand Back, was one of that one actually, was one that would play in the bar. You could drop that. We drop that one. You'd be doing kind of a dancey beat set, and then Stevie Nicks at like 12:45, and the young ladies would that knew that song would be just worked. Complete left turn though.
How about number 81?
Oh, you're way down.
I am, because you it sounded like you were just like scrolling through, so I'm
Yeah,
like, I just started looking down.
yeah. No, go ahead.
So Journey Faithfully, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
like you're looking for a slow song, and that's one of the things that drives me nuts right now is, you know, we don't really have a lot of good slow songs. Country is the only realm that seems to be putting anything out. So you go back and you get a classic, you get a classic one with the rock group in Journey, you know, huge with Faithfully.
Mm-hmm. And John makes a good point that what made it so great was the diversity, that so much of the music sounded so different. I mean, looking at we go from Air Supply to Hall and Oates with Family Man to another Michael Jackson with "Want to Be Starting Something." Um, three songs that I've played over. Family Man kind of fits into that yacht rock genre, and whatever. There's just so many things that kind of bounce back and forth, and then yeah, Rick Springfield was into that era. It's just a lot of great things. Did you make it to the end of the
Toto
list?
actually had another song.
Did who?
Toto actually had a second
Yeah,
song that charted.
They had Rosanna, should have been in there somewhere, wasn't it?
I Won't Hold You Back.
Oh, there was. Oh, okay, because yeah, Rosanna should have been in there. Should have been Africa, um, and there should be four. I think that Toto had. John or Eric, one of you guys. How many did that off the top of your head, don't go searching. How many Toto songs did you guys think charted? Um, I think 4. But the number of
There was
these,
something I learned the other day, and I've got to look it up to make sure that it wasn't subject of a meme. Um, okay. You keep talking. I'm going to look
yeah,
it up to
yeah,
make sure. Yep. Okay,
yeah,
I found it. I found it.
yeah.
So something I didn't know came out. It's like you were this day old when you found out
Mm-hmm.
that the lead singer of Toto is the son of John Williams,
The composer,
the composer.
huh? I guess I wasn't aware of that either.
I was like, what? Okay, there we go.
Amanda, yeah, there was another one. Yeah, so they're throwing out. Yeah, they had quite a few. Hold the line. Yeah, that was a great tune, Aaron. Thank you very much. That one is probably one of my favorite uh, Toto tracks.
By the way, that was a little tongue in cheek when I said they had another track besides Africa.
Yeah, well they did.
They did. I know
they
they
had a
did.
few. It's just that one
I
was
don't know if I
when
would have been able to name all of them,
I
but
yeah
I knew they
exactly.
had more than one.
Well, I'll be over you. Yeah, they had quite a few. But yeah, so as we look through that, there's a lot of great things, but there's one thing that's missing. If we look at an important day in 1983, the day was September 15th, 1983. On that day, one of the most influential albums of all time was released. It was an incredible moment. People, there were tears. There was love in the streets like you would have never known from that day, and that was the day sports hit the stands. Now, you may be wondering why that was such a great day. Well, if you don't know, please go look it up. Huey Lewis in the News Sports. Listen to it on Spotify if that's what you've got. 73 times. And by the end of the 73rd time, you will understand. Graduated in 83. Yes, Mikey knows this music. It was a good year. Yeah, see, I could have gone with the easy one down and gone 1984 because that's when many of those songs were charting, but I wanted to go just ahead of it.
Did you notice that my list did not have anything
From any
from
bands,
said group?
yeah, from San Francisco.
Yeah.
Oh. So yeah, good stuff. A couple of really instrumental times I think in our industry for songs that would get played at the dance time again with Low. Just in itself was a huge makes 2008 a huge year. But then you look back into those 80s and as the diversity and where those songs fit today, where some do hit our dance floor, but some can become those golden oldies. Gosh, who would have thought that we'd be saying that, right, Mikey? But some of the songs you grew up are now golden oldies, and they have become the money songs where people are like, yeah, I really like this kind of a tone that you're setting here with this, and I like this. What can I get a card? Yes, you can. Good stuff.
I encourage you to, make it something that you do during the off season this year. Go through, just randomly pick a year and just kind of scroll through and go, oh, I had forgotten about that one. I could use, I've forgotten that one because I'm not going to use it for a dance track, right? But I could use it for a cocktail track, and make some good use of it because there's like as you just randomly pick, you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
I could play that.
yeah,
I could work that in here.
yeah.
And again, you're not going to make a whole cocktail set of 1983 or 2008, but if you intermix some of those things, you're going to have a better wide variety to be able to pull from.
And it kind of freshens things up with your playlists and how you handle that cocktail, which I think is a huge part of it. Is that we want to, even though our guests may not remember, but there were guests at 3 of my weddings this year. I had 15 to 20 guests that were at all 3 of those weddings. So you feel that obligation to kind of change things up a little bit. So yeah, that's a great way to do it by having that kind of variety, so you can tweak it and drop things in and have some fun with it. But yeah, that's one of my things for this off season. One of my goals is I have a oldies kind of a cocktail list. I've got a 70s, 80s, 90s, and now the early 2000s is what my next one. I want to make that the aughts, that cocktail time playlist, because they're at that age where that's going to be something. And of course, you could drop in some older songs in that, but I think I'll wait until maybe I'll do the teens too. Who knows? But for sure, I want to do that early 2000s, because those are some of those are the favorite sing along type songs, like that Jason Mraz song, where people know it and they do that, and it's like, yeah, we can put that in.
I would do the tens. I would do the tens
Hmm.
also, because you're not too far away, especially the earlier parts of it, from
Yeah.
having that with an audience. So
Yeah.
I think it would be a good piece to do. And it can work really well depending upon the tracks that you're using. But it can work really well to throw into cocktail, or to like a corporate cocktail,
Certainly.
where where you might want something a little bit newer, so it's maybe a little bit more fresh.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's always worth having it, because even if you don't use it, but boy, that time that you've got the right situation and you can drop in and you play three or four songs that are from that era, and they're like, yeah, this guy is awesome.
Of course.
Yay!
Absolutely.
So we got a couple of so this week is the beginning of we've got 6 weeks where we're doing basically full shows. Monday nights we've got our this show, and then the DJNTV.com/chill room. They'll be doing a recording here after we're done in a few minutes. Tuesday night we've got Big Daddy coming back tomorrow night for at let's see, he's at 9 o'clock Eastern. Yeah, 9 o'clock Eastern. Ben Still will be back tomorrow night at 9:30 Eastern, and then they'll be doing a Tuesday night music show recording after that. And then Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern, we will have the Marquee Show is going to be doing a podcast. We're going to be simulcasting that, and that'll be coming out on Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern. You'll be able to find that on some of the different channels. Our YouTube channel should have it, but it'll be on their Facebook page and such, and we're going to be helping with that. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of good stuff, and those will be going between now. 6 weeks takes us right up to Christmas. It's amazing how quickly that's coming. So we should have some new content for you each and every week here going for the next few. So good stuff. I think we got to go.
All right. Well, by the way, don't forget to head on over to djntv.com/chill for the chill room. They're going to be hanging out tonight. You can go over there and join in that as soon as we are done here. So thank you very much for taking time to join John and I. We hope you had some fun kind of going down memory lane on some of these Billboard tracks. Hopefully it gave you some work to do during the off season. But either way, we very much appreciate you tuning in. Have yourself a great one. Bye, everybody.